Hey everybody, it's CJ Graham, Jason Voorhees. That's right, Friday the 13th, part 6. And you're listening to thescenesnobs.com.
Now that I'm on Noom, there are so many leftovers. Try Noom today. Check out our affiliate link.
Yes.
Don't ever talk during my things.
I love talking during your things.
Okay, I forgot. I got a lot of stuff going on today. Welcome everybody to Scene Snobs Reviews. Of course, we're back again with an all-new review of the movie The Greatest Beer Run Ever. And
it's amazing. Super excited.
Save it. We're not even there yet. The movie tells the story of Chicky Donahue, a neighborhood guy from New York City, who is sent on a mission he feels of personal importance, and that is to meet up with all of his guys from his neighborhood who are serving over in Vietnam and bring them a beer. It's a simple tale with a lot of heart, I think. There are things I think, and we're going to get into how each. I'm taking this off. This is so heavy.
It is heavy.
I don't know how he did it throughout that movie.
Well, they used to have inserts or wear your cap, and then you put that on it. There were other ways.
Son of a gun! It's just me with metal on my head. The scrap metal has met the head.
How very World War II of you. Wrong war.
Oh God. I will tell you, this movie that was written and directed by Peter Farrelly and starring Zac Efron, Bill Murray, Russell Crowe, and a bunch more, not as recognizable faces. I think a lot of character actors, which was kind of cool to see. But overall, I really want you to watch this with me because you're a history guy.
Yes.
And you understand all the history. And guys, if you want to comment along, please do. And at the end, we'll get to all the comments. But we're gonna review the movie first. So going into this movie, did you know what to expect? Have you seen trailers for it? Did you know kind of the story beforehand?
So I had seen one trailer, and when I watched that trailer, I immediately looked it up because I had to see, is this real? Like, is this just some sort of dramatization? Or are they just pulling something out of their ass to be like, hey, we haven't had a Vietnam movie in a while. Let's do this one. So I didn't believe it. And then I read it, and it is a fascinating tale. It's a really neat story. And I was kind of blown away at what they portrayed versus what was real. So they did a pretty good job all in all. This movie, like especially there are certain parts of it, the timing of it being in 1967, the Vietnam War is a couple years old now. People are already annoyed with it. It's been 5 years, I think, going, or 4 years going. We've been sending people over at that point. So it was a wild one to see where they were going to pick up, especially with the Tet Offensive being right around the corner.
So here's the thing. I'm not I know what the Tet Offensive was, and I know how long it lasted. But when I never knew that Tet meant the New Year.
Yeah, it was their New Year, which they had agreed to put on holiday, and then managed to use that to their advantage and kind of move their troops into position and have one huge, just massive attack on every front.
Yeah, because when Oklahoma says, "Oh, tonight's the Tet New Year," that's our New Year. That threw me because I was like, "Wait, is this the Tet Offensive? Is he in Saigon during the Tet Offensive?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, he was. That was kind of one of those dramatized parts because he was there during the Tet Offensive, but it wasn't quite at that time. Maybe not in Saigon. There's sort of parts that are Hollywoodized for the sake of getting through the story, so you can kind of understand because he was there for over 4 months. Chicky Donahue.
Oh, was it that long?
Yeah, he was there. That's the real story. Is he was there for over 4.5 months, traveling around trying to see everybody. He had 6 names on his list to bring beer to. And he wound up seeing 3 guys in the first week. and 2 of them he found out were dead, or one guy had been sent back home, the other one had passed away. So that he only had one other person to go visit, and that was Sergeant Dugan, which he was, which they show him going up and having to run through to the foxhole and everything at the ambush position. So it was pretty rad how they did that. And it was pretty real. I have to say they held true to a lot of the story. They had amalgamation characters, that's Russell Crowe's. There's not really a whole lot of talk about who he met or, who it was that he linked up with when he was there. He goes deeper in depth in his book, but he had met several people like that.
Yeah. I got that feeling that he was, because it was, again, this was all condensed down, everybody. So I didn't even know it was the 4.5 months. I had read a little bit about the story, and I knew he was there longer than 3 days.
Yeah.
I thought it was weeks for some reason, but.
Well, it was almost a month and a half to get there. I think it was a 6-week journey just to steam over there through Panama and everything else. So it does. So you got to count that part too. Which
always cracks me up, because this entire thing, and it's one thing that sort of took hits off my ratings for it was the the MacGuffin of it is this bag of beer from home.
Yes.
And I call it the magical bag of beer because it has as much beer as you need in it, and it's just this duffel bag, and it hangs perfectly. It's never too heavy. Like any duffel bag that big filled with beer, as many as you show them drinking in the movie, should not be hanging perfectly off your shoulder, and you should not be able just to run everywhere with it.
Yeah, the way he was holding it just with one hand running it early on, and I'm like, but that's full of beer. Yeah. But now, mind you, Zac Efron, strong guy. He's a strong guy.
That's like muscles. To hold it out and run like this. Like, no way. No way. Listen, strong guy for sure. But
that part is true, though. It was a bag that he got from his local bar, and they just loaded it up with beers from right there in Inwood.
But I almost wonder how many times he bought like new beer while he was over there to give to them.
I'm always curious of that myself. I wonder if there was like a differing, like he had to grab some beers when he was in country, because once he's there, they have Budweiser and everything else. So I'm sure they could get PBR.
They even make a joke about it. There's like, oh, you brought him beer. They don't have that here. And then the one guy's drinking a Budweiser. So, I mean, for this movie, and I want to talk about it as the movie for a few minutes, not the versus the truth. How did you feel like it flowed? For me, it flowed really well. I had no issues. Like, I wasn't bored at any point. I kind of like really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a relatively long movie for what it was, but it played very well. I was excited for the next beat. It kept me going. They never hung too long on the, oh no, war is bad part. They actually continued the story and more or less just said it factually. And it was nice that they did that. And we get to see someone's eyes change and open to what this war, specifically Vietnam, was. So I think that was a really great way that they did that. And for a movie itself, it was entertaining the entire way. I don't think there was ever a point that was too slow. I don't think there was ever a point where they got hung up in their own BS. I think it was done very well.
The only thing I would say for me, from the being home in New York City versus the Vietnam portion, it seemed a little too comedic in the New York portion. And then it still had its comedy in the Vietnam portion, but it seemed to be handled really well. Like, the comedy stood up against the drama aspect of it. Whereas in the New York part, it seemed like the dramatic couldn't stand up to the comedy.
That's fair. And that's also for me, because that I felt like, because of what they were trying to get across in the at home side, was that, this is the difference between warmongers and protesters. There was a very hard line between the two that they were trying to show.
Yeah, but I thought they did it. Listen, I grew up in a house where Chicky and how he was acting in the beginning of the movie in New York, I'm watching. I'm like, this reminds me of my dad. Like, legit. Like, this is who he would have been at that time, and probably still. And like, if anything, it's who he would have been at that time, and then he grew into Bill Murray's Colonel character. So, and by Colonel, he's a bartender in a movie. It's not. That's a rank that they just call him by.
Well, he was a colonel.
Well, no, but that's the rank they call him by. He's not in Vietnam. I don't.
Oh, yeah. Roger that.
I don't want to portray it as like he's in Vietnam. by saying Colonel. So watching this and seeing it, I thought they handled it really well with like, okay, he's pushy. He doesn't like he hates these protesters, which we see, and there's a lot of that. But I think you saw like the worst of the protesters versus the ones who are just like questioning. And then you saw the ones who are pushing against the protesters who are thinking patriotically in a way. Not saying any one thing, but like a version of patriotism that we kind of see and know it as. And then, of course, they show the government where it's like lies, you know, and what's going on. And one line I liked in it was, you know, in World War II, we knew the Nazis were the bad guys. In World War I, we knew we were Nazis were bad guys. We were saving the world. And for him to learn this lesson throughout by what he saw was, we don't know who the bad guys are here. There are no bad guys. These are just people.
And that's a line that stuck with me was actually, and I was just thinking it when you said it, is we don't know who the Nazis are. And one of the guys at the bar goes, they got Nazis over there too? He's like, no, they're not walking around dressed in red uniforms as the bad guys, you know? And there's a really stark scene with the little girl and the ball that he sees as he's wandering on the road. And that really messed me up, man. That was a hard scene, but a beautifully well done scene. This little girl sees this man, this white guy, and just loses her shit. And just freaks out, cries, terrified, like this is the enemy to them. And that was a lot of the problem with Vietnam. So it was done very well. I really enjoyed the way they put those little tidbits in without having to focus and make an entire, you know, diatribe of talk or anything. They did it through scenes and actions and each progressive take moving forward.
And I like that he was alone for that. I like that if he was on his own and he handled it the way he would, as in like, well, I'll give you your ball back. It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. Whereas if you were, because when the mother runs out, it's terrifying and grabs her and then runs back in and just disappears in the field. And you're like, that's terrifying too, because that was happening. That was how your soldiers were getting killed and such. So you can imagine if he was with another soldier, how they would have had to react.
Right.
But at least we got to see him and like trying to react, trying to calm it down, but then seeing that he's the bad guy. And then later the parallel between him connecting with Oklahoma, Hune. And you know, I really liked how they played that up because it didn't feel forced, didn't feel heavy-handed. It just felt like this is what it was like.
It was a dude just going over there to hang out and say hi to people, you know? So he's he's not coming over there with any preconceived notion. He has no, we got to get over here and fight and kill them all. He has none of that. It was done really well.
Random Rick review. We're going to get to the comments soon, but we're also going to be getting to our ratings very soon. We do 1 out of 5, but we'll get to that very soon. We're just so talking about the movie and kind of going over some of our favorite parts versus stuff that didn't work for us and stuff like that. I know
what didn't work for you. I'm curious.
All right, so for me, it was paced well. It was a little long, I think. They paced it well with the action and the good dialogue and such throughout to keep me engaged, but it is a long movie. And I thought you could have shaved down the New York portion of it a little bit more.
Okay.
I thought there was just a little too many characters maybe I thought there wasn't enough characters in Vietnam or enough time in Vietnam. Like there was just too fast with the 72 hours. But then, you know, with New York, it's like you have all of these characters and it's taking a little too much time. And I remember the reason that it was because I was watching with my wife and she goes, all right, I really need to take a shower, but I'm loving this movie. When he gets off the boat in Vietnam, we're going to pause it. I'm going to shower and come back. I was like, okay. So, and that was like 45 minutes in.
Yeah. It's a big chunk.
And I felt like that. But there was nothing in that was stayed upon too long. Most of it was just jokes. So it wasn't like there's something pushing this along too much because like it seemed like it was just jokes about him. Then he makes the proclamation, I'm going to Vietnam to bring them beer. And then it's like he's thinking it as it goes on, and I'm like, okay, that's good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought just before then it just took a little too long. You could have shaved some of that down, I thought.
Yeah, I could see that. For me, the probably the weakest parts of this movie were. Oh, it's really hard to find weak parts. It was a great movie all the way through. I'll agree that part of the New York stuff could be taken away. I like the fact that we got Chickie Donahue's life, and they showed, and I think it was very important why they did this. They showed that pro-war sentiment from so many, and they really expressed the kind of feeling at home and gave us that idea, because 67, there's a lot of shit going on. So it was good to see that and feel that and experience that. So I don't know, I'm tough to pick this movie apart. So I really enjoyed it all the way through. I will agree it was long. For the length, though, I think it played really well.
I will say Russell Crowe, as much as I like him, he's a great actor. His accent drives me nuts sometimes. So his Americanized accent, which just seemed a little too out.
When they are sitting there having that conversation at the bar on the table outside, I was 100% with you. I was like, "What are you doing, Russell? What was that?" He's got weird inflection on words, the way he kind of just hands them off.
He could have just been English.
Go to the yard,
He could have been English, or he could have been Australian. Like
he could have been Australian, no problem.
It's just like I felt like, and I kind of would have liked that, because it would have felt like you could have played this reporter character who's seeing it from the outside as he's not American. Mm-hmm. But I did like the fact that he was American in a sense. It's just the accent threw me off. So I was like, I would have accepted him as an Australian or English or something. But that's what bugged me. Like him as an American, it felt like, okay, two opposing sides. He's kind of showing Chickie something. I do, and one thing, I know it was real. Like when he watches the American tank come in and blow a hole in the wall. Yeah. And they're like, that's how they flooded in. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, I like that. But at the same time, like, it wasn't true. I would have preferred maybe they used something true. He wouldn't have had to been there, but is that something they actually did?
I really enjoyed that, because that absolutely was that sort of subterfuge, the different wars going on. When Russell Crowe has almost line of the movie with that, there's a lot of wars being fought in Vietnam, and they aren't all on the battlefield. And it was really smart and very true. And I think it rings true to what we see now with 50, 60 years past. So almost 70 years past. Oof.
We got some good comments. So I want to get to our ratings of it. I'll do mine first.
Okay, let's do it.
Because ours are a little different, and we're going to have to explain them a little bit. But so I gave it a 4 out of 5 PBRs.
Nice. Strong.
So it's a good movie. It's a solid movie to watch. I think you enjoy it. I think Zac Efron catches a lot of hate, but he's pretty good in this, and
he's fantastic.
He did.
I don't see what hate he gets. He deserves no hate.
But everything he got, like when he played Ted Bundy, and when he does serious roles, people give him a lot of heat on.
Which is bullcorn. People just they struggle with seeing such a beautiful human being on camera. I get it.
But yeah, so I gave it 4 out of 5, because there are some things, little things here and there, that are just kind of like took me out of it, but very minuscule. Overall, I really liked it, and it kept me engaged throughout. So Casey, what is your rating?
Mine is a little bit higher. It's a 4.5 PBRs, because I actually put this movie all the way up with Platoon and Good Morning Vietnam.
I actually like it more than Platoon.
I will watch this on repeat when it comes to a good war movie. This is a solid one that has heart and is also a fun story. And it's a true story, man. It's a true story that reading, because of course I read, so reading the Chickie Donahue stuff and reading what he really thought about this, how he felt about this. And all of it he loved. He was a big fan. At one point, he's making fun of Zac Efron while on scene, going, "I don't understand why this guy has to keep doing retakes." But he was going over and talking to Chickie, like, "How would you do this? How would this make you feel? How did you react at this time?" So it was really well done. I really impressed by it. So great movie.
Yeah, and one thing they kind of made the joke of, and one thing I didn't like about it too is like how they kind of kept making a joke about him and his military service, because Chickie did serve.
He was a Marine. Yeah,
he was a Marine, but he served in Massachusetts because it was not wartime.
Right, because it was post Korea, it was pre-Vietnam. He was 26 at the time of this movie.
Yeah.
So
he had served, he had done his time, and that's why he wasn't serving in Vietnam at the time, because he was a merchant seaman. So he would travel the world, and I like the story behind it, and because it kind of threw me off right off the bat. They kind of allude to him being a maritime mariner, and they get into it, but it's very quick, and I think I missed it at first.
Fair,
because when he was like, "This is like my summer vacation," I'm like, "Is he a teacher?" And then I realized, like, when he went in, he was like, "I'm an oiler." I'm like, "Oh, he's on leave." Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I liked how they did that, but at the same time, like, there is an aspect that was kind of like, all right. But I did like it. Again, Chicky in the movie, and that's what I like about Zac Efron, is a really personable. He represents us well, like the viewer, because he's not, even in his beliefs, he's not a complete and utter asshole.
Right.
He's like a nice guy, just thinking he's doing the right thing by his country and his friends who are serving over there.
Exactly. And that's really what it was. He learned firsthand, kind of the way in Good Morning Vietnam. That's why I really equated this movie to that one immediately. Was he plays that everyman that we can associate with, that we can join on and like watch his journey and be a part of his journey. So they did that really well.
Yeah. So I thought that they did that really well. And one thing they did, a parallel that they did was nice, was when he knocks over the candles at the protest. And they're like, "What are you doing? Those are burning for our soldiers." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know." Like, he immediately was like, "If I had known that, I wouldn't have done it." Like, And then at the end, he's sitting at the park and he's lighting the candles for Tommy and other guys and stuff like that. So overall, I mean, I think we're kind of, you're 4.5, I'm 4, so like we give it a pretty high rating. This is not doing well with critics.
Really?
But critics are. Right, the audience score is 77.
Okay.
And on IMDb, it's a 6.8, which is pretty high for IMDb as well.
Yeah.
So that's the people watching it. It's the critics.
I'm just shocked it didn't get more. I mean, I saw one critic rating that was like 22% or something stupid.
Yeah, people are. It's the critics. It's what it comes down to.
I mean, if you want to tear this movie apart, look, if you want to tear this movie apart, you absolutely can. You can for sure decide to break it down, rip it apart, and say it's not these other wonderful highbrow movies. It's not supposed to be. It's a true story about an absurd thing that happened. That was a decision made by a guy at a bar as a 26-year-old. So if you've made a decision in a bar at 26, it's probably going to be outrageous. And the story to follow is going to be even crazier.
But he stuck to it, and he delivered the beers.
Yes, he did.
Good for him. Let's get to the comments real quick. Jason Taylor says, "Good morning. What's up, Jason?"
Morning, Jason.
Chris is here. He says, "Happy Sunday,
What's up, buddy?"
Happy Sunday, buddy. Random Rick Reviews. Go check them out. What would you rate it? We rated it, of course, a 4 and a 4.5. Paul says, "Good afternoon." What's up, buddy? Paul says, "I plan on watching the greatest beer run ever tomorrow. I think you should. I definitely say check it out." Going too far, Cowboy. I don't think it went too far, Cowboy. I think the Cowboy added the element of comedic to it.
Agreed.
And I think you needed that element of comedic, because this is at times a very hard movie.
Right. Exactly.
But that comedy really helped even it out. Like, your emotion.
Once again, Good Morning Vietnam. The comedy from that is bore of who's actually Adrian Cronauer, which, of course, the great Robin Williams. But the craziness that ensues is all just normal situations with a person who's outrageous in those normal situations.
Yeah.
And this is very much so played that way.
Yeah. Random Ray says, "Russell Crowe stealing roles from true American actors."
Curse you, Aussies. Not really, no.
I liked him in the role. I liked his character. I just didn't like his accent. Some high ratings. And he's over on YouTube too, so you can go check him out there. Over here too, SC. Will Wilson says, "Is this available for consumption on a streaming platform?"
Apple TV.
Apple TV Plus has it. Or I think it is for rent on Vudu.
Okay.
So I think you can rent it there if you don't have Apple TV Plus, but if you do, it's part of their platform, so it's free. And if the critics don't like it, that's a good sign. Yeah, true. I always like the audience score more than anything else.
Agreed.
Because there's no integrity in most critics. So, but yeah, guys. So we appreciate you watching, and that's how we feel about this movie. And, we really liked it, and we've had some good movies that we've been reviewing lately. Casey and I did Hocus Pocus 2 the other day. I did Blonde, which, and I also did The Monsters. And one of my favorite movies of the year is Meet Cute.
Ooh,
which is
all right. I'm gonna have to.
Casey,
give it a watch.
you got to watch that movie.
Okay.
You have to watch that movie.
Classic.
That's on
rom-com?
Peacock, dude. You have to watch it. I'll fight you on it. You have to watch that because you
Fair
are
enough,
such
man.
a romantic comedy guy.
It's my
and
wheelhouse.
This is so different. I would love to see what you think of it.
Okay. All right. Now, the thing is, though, we're in October, so I don't know how many more of those outrageous ones I'll be watching.
It's got a horror element to it, so it's pretty good.
Okay. So
it's got a horror, sci-fi, and romantic element to it. I really think you should check it out. Guys, Snobstober is here. Make sure you're checking us out. We're going to have daily content every day, just going. We have some fun stuff coming up. If you guys have been watching, I have been counting down my favorite horror movies for 95 days. That is what I'm going, the full gamut. So we do recaps every once in a while. We did 95 through 75, and of course 74 through 50. And tonight, live, we will be doing numbers 49 through 32. So make sure you join in there. We have a new podcast episode out, the Scene Snobs Podcast, Truish Crime, where we take a stab at true crime podcasting. We also have our show, Does It Suck? The second episode is coming out soon, but our first episode, Antitrust, is up, and you can check it out. Next Friday, we're starting a brand new show. It's a morning drive show, the Scene Snobs Morning Drive live show, every Friday at 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., starting October 7th, so make sure to check us out there. I want to say thank you to our wonderful patrons. You guys are amazing. You help us keep the lights on and truly support us, and all of your support helps us keep doing what we love doing. So we thank you. Tim, Paul, Stacy, Matt, Aaron, Chris S, and Chris H,
Dan, John B, Ron, Jason, AJ, Radar, and John W. Thank you all.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested, go check us out and check out all our shows on YouTube, everything like that. But we have 3 tiers available over on patreon.com/thescenesnobs.
We also have our Snobs Nation Discord. Join us in the Discord where all of the Snobs Nation gets together and powwows about all the craziest things we can come up with, whether it be something about our show or just random topics we like to throw at each other. So check us out.
And then, of course, make sure to give a like and subscribe over on here on YouTube. Some of these great shows, Scene Snobs Podcast, which is live every Tuesday night at 9. We have Real Combat, which is coming back for season 2 this month. Plot Roast, Scene Snobs Review, Geek Fest Live. We have the Morning Drive show, as we told you, and Does It Suck? And we have more coming.
And we have merch. If you want to drape yourself in some of the finest finery this side or that side of the Mississippi, check it out. Make sure to throw on a Scene Snobs t-shirt, embrace absurdity, or find out what is the strongest ship in the fleet.
It's friendship.
That's it. It's friendship.
Make sure to follow us online everywhere. We have daily content all the time going on. You can follow us and see more of it at the Scene Snobs everywhere except for TikTok because they won't let me change it. And guys, we do have one other comment I want to put up here. It's from Will Wilson. Out of Exile will be released January of next year. Would love for you guys to review it. It is a Kyle Kawika Harris film. I will do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Will.
Yes, thank you, sir. So we'll keep that in mind, and once it comes out, we'll be able to check it out. So thank you very much. And guys, we want to say thank you again. Casey, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. We appreciate it. Thanks for spending a little time with us. Hope we made your day a little better. We appreciate you, and check out the greatest beer run ever. Until then, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other.
All right, everybody, take care. You want to go get a beer, Casey?
Let's do it. I won't go to Jersey for you.
I want to thank you, Random Rick Reviews, for checking us out, and Will Wilson. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Let's get a PBR.